Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. Look, I'm pleased to start the show off and say that we've got a little bit of relief here in Australia from our massive bushfires that we've had. They're not all out, but there's been rain in some very needed areas, and we've gone from one extreme to the other where parts of the country are on fire and other parts of the country are flooding and having hailstorms. So it can only happen in Australia, plus dust storms just to mix it up a little bit. The only thing we haven't had this week in Australia is snow. So we can always hope for that, I suppose. So wherever you are in this world of ours, I know that there's been lots of people that have been going through lots of weather events since the beginning of the year, and my heart does go out to you. So I think collectively as a globe, I think we should all sort of hold everybody in our prayers this week and sort of pray for a bit of peace, a little contentment, and certainly the weather to calm down in your little neck of the woods and just everybody to be able to start to heal. I think that's the message of this week, is that we've had so much, even in just a very short space of time, for the start of a new year. There's been so many things to deal with. There's so much stuff going on politically and, you know, right around the world. There's just so many things that are happening. And I think everybody's sort of saying, wow, if this is the beginning of the year 2020, what's the rest of the year going to be like? Because it got off to a very vibrant sort of start, in lots of ways positive, but in lots of ways not so positive too. It's just sort of like all action stations, all systems go. So I'm pleased to sort of share with you this week the Secrets of Tarot card of the week is the Hermit. Now, when I see this card come out in a reading, I automatically take a deep breath and exhale and think, wow, okay, now things are going to start to sort of slow down a little bit more marginally, or things are going to start to become a little bit more streamlined. Now, the actual meaning of the Hermit card can be loneliness, unattached, but more importantly, it's usually soul-searching time is needed, or time alone. Now, this is a very important thing because, you know, as I said, we got off to such a racy sort of start to 2020. I think we all need to catch our breath now and maybe have a little bit of time by ourselves, or doing things that give us pleasure, things that sort of give us that opportunity to stop and smell the roses, smell the coffee, take a deep breath, sort of do some yoga, do some meditation, or just sort of sit there and stare into your candle. You know, I mean, there's many different ways of being able to catch your breath and sort of do a little bit of soul searching without actually consciously soul searching. It's a time of stillness that I think is necessary. And wouldn't it be nice if the world could take a little bit of a breath at the moment and just sort of slow down and let everybody catch their breath with all the things that are going on around the world at the moment? I mean, you know, news stations are very, very busy at the moment. They've got plenty of things to report, from weather events to impeachments to royal dramas to you name it. It's all happening. So it's a time now, I think, where we can catch our breath. So I'd like to sort of move on to now the candle that I've chosen for this week, because I think it's very appropriate that the candle sort of matches the card that I took out this morning. And the candle this week that I chose last night was the candle of healing, because I truly do believe the globe, the planet, all of us need a little bit of healing at the moment. Now, when I bring a candle out like this called healing, that doesn't necessarily mean we've got to race off to the medical practitioner and get a physical. What it means is that a little bit of, like the soul-searching card of the Hermit, we all need to stop. We need to take a breath. We need to sort of start to sort of slow down a little bit and just allow ourselves to do a little bit of self-healing. And sometimes that can just come in the form of being a little bit still, being at peace with yourself, sort of giving yourself that chance to catch up on everything. And I think that there's been so many things that have already started to happen in this busy time of the year as we've kicked off 2020 that I think we could all do with a little bit of healing energy at the moment. For those of you that might have a physical or an emotional illness that you're trying to heal, this is a candle that's really good for that. So how I work with this candle is that I don't necessarily write 3 things on the piece of paper that I want to release and 3 things that I want to attract to myself. What I tend to do with the healing candle is I put on there anything that I might be struggling with, whether that's an emotional issue, whether it's a physical issue. It's, you know, for many of us as we get older, we get more aches and pains and things that we didn't know that we had before in our youth all of a sudden sort of manifest as we start to get a bit older. I tend to put those sort of things on my list. I read it out aloud, and I burn the candle for a minimum of 10 minutes a day. And I like to sit there and stare into the flame of the candle. And this is where I have my time to catch my breath. I can focus on what I've got written on my list, or I can just sit there and enjoy the flickering flame of the candle. So I think it's important that we all take a little bit of time to sort of just catch our breath at the moment and do a little bit of self-healing. So in the vein of the healing candle, I've chosen this week 3 candles that I think are appropriate for now. And one is the the candle of travel. Now, the reasons why I chose the travel one first was I felt that if we sent the traveling energy out there, that we're sending it all around the globe to everybody, that encompasses everybody this week. Then I've got the healing candle in the middle. And to end this week's selection, I've got the love candle. So I thought we could send out this massive healing energy to the world and send a loving energy with it that I think we could all do with a little bit of peace, a little bit of tranquility. And the answer to the question is always love. Love is the answer. Love is something that helps us conquer, I think, everything in our lives, from sadness to positivity. It probably doesn't pay your bills, but it certainly goes a long way to giving you the coping mechanisms to be able to do that. So we're now going to look at what's actually happening around the universe. And this week I'm going to take the emphasis off the Capricorn sort of energy, because I'm going to do a I'm going to do a live broadcast after this show over on my Amanda Hall page over on Facebook Live, where I'm going to talk about, is there anything positive to come out of the Australian bushfires? And that will directly after this show. So I'm going to focus on all the energies that have been sitting. So I'd like to sort of action of show and look at sort of what's happening astrologically in a slightly different way. Let's look at where some of the other planets are. Let's look at, Pluto is actually making a very nice aspect to Jupiter at the moment. Pluto and Jupiter are still sitting in Capricorn, but let's focus on the moon. The moon is actually sitting in Sagittarius at the moment, and he's sitting there holding hands with the planet of Mars, the planet of action. So it's like the time where our emotions are sort of quite charged at the moment, but they don't necessarily have to be on a negative. They can be very, very much on a positive, where we can sort of be really feeling very optimistic. We can be feeling like as if we've got plenty of energy. Emotional drive is certainly positive and focused. And we can certainly achieve a lot at the moment because we have this energy to get up and get motivated and get off the couch and sort of make hay while the sun shines, so to speak. And at the same time, we've also got a really nice aspect of Venus, the planet of love and affection, is actually holding hands with the planet Neptune. Now, Neptune is the planet of illusion and delusion, but it's also the planet of creativity, of a gentle sort of flowing sort of energy where we get some brilliant ideas. So I feel at the moment, with Venus holding hands with Neptune, we can have some amazing romantic moments at the moment, because it's in the watery sign of Pisces, which is always a sign of it being sort of very gentle, of sort of like the flowing tide. It's like water coming in, water going out, and it's just a very gentle, caressing sort of energy. So I feel it's a really positive time for romance at the moment. So if you haven't really had time to catch your breath so far this year and spend some quality time with that special someone, now's the time to sort of make an appointment with yourselves to sort of zone in some sort of, or pencil in the diary, some very special couple time over the next few days or the next week, and really sort of reconnect with each other and just enjoy each other, enjoy the magic of the moment. And I feel it's a very positive time if you need to have some conversations with loved ones about issues that might have been troubling you or things that you think that need addressing. Now is the time to do so, because we've got this positive planetary influence with the moon holding hands with Mars in Sagittarius. So people are going to be a lot more broad-minded, more open-minded to conversations than what they would have been. Yes, they might get a little bit hot under the collar, but it'll be positive hot under the collar. Like if somebody yells and screams or jumps up and down, it's because they want to be heard. They want to get their side of the story out. And it's like if we can work with that and then work with the loving, positive breakthrough type of energy of Venus conjunct or holding hands with Neptune in Pisces, we've got some really nice mutable energy happening on a fire level and on a water sign level. So we've got the best of both worlds at the moment, where we can sort of be flexible and see things from someone else's point of view. Now, it's also very interesting because we haven't had this opportunity for a very long time now, many months, where I'm happy to say there is not one planet that's going retrograde or backwards at the moment. Every planet is going direct. So it's like the energy of the 8 planets and the 2 luminaries is very focused. It's very straightforward. Let's go. There's no complications. There's no restrictions. There's no boulders in the way for us to trip over. It's a time where we can really focus on moving things forward. Now, having said this, it's a time where, on one hand, I'm asking you to stop and smell the roses and sort of slow things down and sort of have a little bit of time to yourself. And that's very important. But it's also the time then, once we've done that and we've got our clear thinking, then we can catapult things into action and sort of start to really ramp everything up and get our creative hat out of the wardrobe or the closet and start to sort of look at the things that we might want to achieve in 2020. We've all, still got our New Year's resolutions are sort of quite fresh in the back of our mind. Whether we've done anything about it or not is another thing, but they're certainly there. This can be a good time for goal setting for the things that you hope to achieve or you're working towards for 2020. It can also be a good time to look at your family finances and look at how much money you spent over the festive season and how you're going to quickly repay that and get your finances back on track. But it can also be a good time to sort of start setting some personal goals for us as an individual. And whether that means that you're going to start to looking after yourself better, sort of taking a walk in the park or looking at the food that you put into your mouth, how much exercise, how much rest you get, all these things need to be brought into balance. And while we have such an emphasis on so many planets sitting in Earth, I think we need to sort of start looking at how we can ground ourselves, how we can take better care of ourselves as a person. Stop blaming everyone else. Stop blaming advertising and the convenience of fast food. We are the ones that are still in control of what we put into our bodies. And I think we can collectively take small steps that can have a major influence on our well-being and our health this year. And that's one of the things that I think each and every one of us should be striving for, is to improve our physical and emotional health. So having said that, we're going to take our first call, and it's Robin in Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. Are you there, Robin? Oh, Robin's just disappeared for the second. We'll be getting Robin back in a minute, so I'll keep talking about astrological things. So it's going to be another huge year, I'm sure, astrological-wise. It's a time where, the planets just seem to be doing their dance and sort of having more fun than what I've ever seen in many years. And if I can touch back on the full moon that we had in Capricorn, in Cancer, which was only a bit over a week ago now, and there was a lot of people that said that it was very, very powerful. They felt a real energy shift. It was in Cancer, so the moon was back in its own sign. And yes, there was a lunar eclipse, so it was a time of tremendous letting go. And I think a lot of people didn't realise how much of a shift of energy that they were going to experience personally when this full moon was actually over. It was sort of like a huge shift on many directions. Some people actually felt a release on the physical as well as the emotional. So it was a very powerful full moon that kicked off the first full moon for the year. So if that's the sort of pattern that we're laying down for 2020, then I think a lot of people are going to have more of an influence with the full moon this year than what they've probably ever had before in their lives. So it may just be setting a precedence for us to be sort of focusing more on the things that we want in our lives. So it's a good thing. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I feel very comfortable with what's actually sort of happening in our lives at the moment. I feel that 2020 is going to be a very exciting year. I think it's going to be a year of major breakthroughs. I think we're probably going to see a lot of shifts and changes around the world in many ways at how, political parties behave, how we as a nation sort of react to the decisions that our leaders make. I think it's going to be a huge year for climate change. I think there's going to be a lot more discussions around climate change, which is good. So we seem to have lost Robin. We're going to go to Tyresha in Illinois. Are you there, Tyresha?
Yes, I am.
You have a question I can work with, sweetie.
Um, I'm not sure how you are with this, but I was wondering if my mother that is deceased happens to have any message for me.
Can you repeat that, sweetie? I had trouble hearing your question.
I said I was just wondering if maybe my mother that has recently passed maybe had a message for me.
Oh, okay, your mum that's recently passed. Sweetie, there's never any guarantee that they're going to come through in a very short space of time that we've got here on the show to answer that question. Just let me sort
Okay.
of be very clear with you that your mum is always going to be with you. Just because she's passed, whether it was last week or last year or 20 years ago, that doesn't sort of denote that they're going to come through any quicker on the time frame that they've gone to the other side. They are always with us. They are always very aware of the things that we're doing in our lives. And I think us as human beings, we tend to think when someone passes that they must have some tremendous message that they've got to share with us, or something that they haven't shared with us while they're here on earth, and they're not going to be able to settle or rest in peace until they've shared this with us. That's not necessarily the case. Usually it's just a fact of they want you to know that what you're up to. They don't even necessarily all the time have anything of any great substance that they want to share with us, just to let you know that they're okay and they see what's going on in your life. Your mum hasn't come through with any particular message, but what I am picking up psychically is that there's still a couple of changes that are going to come up around you over the next couple of months. So was there things that you were working on just prior to your mother's passing that sort of got put to one side with the loss of your mum, that you had other things that you needed to focus on?
Like my career, finding a job.
Yeah, those sort of things, the things that you were working on or striving towards before she passed, and then sort of obviously you had to change gears for a little bit because there was a family tragedy to deal with. Look, I do feel that there is a new job. I'm not sure that it's going to be this month, but I'm sort of seeing around March, the beginning of March, being a very definite time for you moving forward. It's like sort of slowly start to get your head back into what you want to achieve for 2020. Start looking at how you can sort of put that into action. And I feel be ready to sort of launch yourself in early March, because things sort of seem to be really ramping up then. It's interesting because every time I ask if your mum's there, I don't get anything directly other than a pink flower, but I'm going to say it's not a rose. I'm not really good on flowers. It's a big sort of flower like a camellia or something like that. So I don't know whether your mum's message from that is that she's just giving you a flower to sort of say she's okay, or was that something that she had a particular unusual sort of flower that was her favourite?
Um, she knows I like carnations.
Okay, well that's not what I would consider a normal flower this day and age. Yes, if it's a carnation, it was bigger than a carnation. It wasn't a petite one. It was a really a lipstick coloured pink, a lolly pink, candy pink colour, but it was big. If it was a carnation, it's a beautiful, beautiful carnation. She was showing it to me as an exaggerated version of one. So I'm going to take that's what she's showing me, that, instead of just showing me a small carnation, she's showing me one the size of a saucer that you'd put a cup on, to show you how much she really does love you, and she is here, and she is connecting with you. Was it a sudden passing, was it? Because she keeps telling me that she wasn't prepared for this.
Okay.
So was it sudden when she departed?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, because she's telling me she wasn't prepared. I'm not saying that she hasn't come to terms with it since she's passed over to the other side, but what she was sharing with me was she wasn't prepared for this. So I feel that she's just letting you know that she's okay. She's given you this very oversized carnation, and she just wants you to get on with, starting slowly to take the reins to your life again, my sweet. So we're going to leave it there. We're going to talk to Cheryl now in Forked River in New Jersey in the US of A. Are you there, Cheryl?
Yes, I'm here.
Do you have a question I can work with, please, Cheryl?
Yes, I'd like to know if my daughter's going to come back.
Okay, all right. Well, that's a really sad sort of state of events, isn't it, Cheryl, that you're having to ask a question like that. My first indication there when I tune into your daughter is at the moment she's been quite stubborn. She's not sort of seeing that there's any need to sort of change the status quo at the moment. Now, I don't want you to be upset by that. I want you to sort of take this in a very positive way to say that, okay, you raised your daughter to be a very strong, self-willed young lady who can make her own decisions. Yes, not necessarily always the ones we as mothers would like them to make, but she's made her own decisions. She's doing well, but at this point she's not prepared to sort of bend and sort of make some sort of direction coming back towards the family. She's still sort of quite upset. I'm not going to use the word angry. I'm going to say upset. And it's sort of like, well, I've made my decision and I'm sticking to it. No one's going to change my mind. And she's very definite about that. That won't always be the case. I think by the end of the year, well and truly before the end of the year, somewhere between August and the end of the year, you will have some communication from your daughter. Now, it may not be necessarily in the form of a text message or a phone call. It may just be something as simple as her reaching out to you on social media or something like that, sort of testing the water to see what you're going to do and how you're going to react to it. I wouldn't go overboard with that. If she sort of sends you a friend request on social media, yes, by all means accept it, but I wouldn't go overboard in sort of bombarding her with questions. How are you? Where are you? What's going on? Just sort of leave it up to her to sort of slowly come back towards you. Look, okay. I'm not going to sit here and sort of say who was at blame and, all the things that happened in your family setup. But what I will say is at the moment, your daughter needs to sort this out for herself. This is a very important part of her becoming a stronger, more confident young woman, is that she needs to be able to sort this out for herself. And when she does come back, she will come back, with a little bit of an attitude, but also you're going to see a very strong, powerful, confident young woman. And you're going to be very, very proud to think, well, gee, I really did raise her well. She can stand on her own 2 feet. She can stand up for the things that she believes in. And for that, I'm pleased. And that's a good thing. But when you do start to reestablish your connection there with your daughter, and it will be slow to begin with, but it will be a definite connection, and it will be something I think that will never be broken again. It's like the two of you will see each other in a different light. And I think you'll accept each other as two very strong, powerful, stubborn, big-headed women that, don't always see eye to eye, but you can respect and understand and appreciate the other person's point of view, even though you mightn't always agree with it. So that's a good thing. But, you must realise she doesn't believe she was wrong. She's not going to admit that. So I think it's not a matter of who was right and who was wrong. I think it's a matter of us being able to draw a line under this and being able to move forward as a family. And I think that's the important thing. And I can tell you she's okay. She's doing well. She's really powering on, and you've got nothing to worry about other than the fact that she's not in contact with you. But let me assure you, there isn't a day goes past where she doesn't think about you and doesn't wonder what you're up to, but she's just not ready to reach out just yet. So I hope that's put your mind at ease, Cheryl, because it's always difficult when our children don't speak to us for various reasons, and we just need to know that they're okay, and she is okay, sweetie.
Great. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. And that's where we're going to leave, Cheryl. Now, it's always hard when we have, issues with our children or family members, and, it rips families apart for various different reasons. And a lot of times they're very silly reasons as we see it at the time. But it's usually that little thing that is the final straw for somebody that's been unhappy or been agitated or upset with a family member. And it's a little thing that's the final thing that makes them walk away. But, it's a time where I think that we need to appreciate and respect that everybody has their own right to be able to turn their back and walk away from a family situation or a situation that they believe is toxic to them or is not working for them. And it doesn't mean that they stop loving us. It just means that they need to do this for their own self-preservation. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, because we raise our children with the best tools that hopefully we can give them as parents to be able to stand on their own 2 feet and make decisions and to be proud of them. And then when they act upon those tools that we've instilled in them as they're growing up, we then tend to sort of get a little bit upset and say, oh, why did they do that? That's not what I wanted them to do. Well, we've got to understand that they are grown-ups and they have the right to make choices and make decisions that suit them and are right for them. So there may be a few people out there that are going through the same situation as Cheryl. Know that your children are okay. You know, they just don't choose to be in our lives at the moment. So for those of you that want to join me over on my Amanda Hall page, I'll be talking directly after this show in a couple of minutes on some positive things to come out of the Australian bushfires on an astrological point of view. So until next week, make sure that you start doing a little bit of healing on yourself and really looking after yourself, because that's the most important thing we can do for ourselves, is to look after ourselves, and then we can take care of everyone else. So bye for now.